All right. I think we got to fix this time. I'm 5 minutes late. Don't go away. Everybody's saying there's no live stream. I forgot to. There's a button I have to push that says publish. And until I do that, it can't go live. So I thought it was live, but it wasn't. But now it is. So hello. Welcome. That's all good. Okay, so we got that looking good. I am so happy to share some good news with you guys. I have found my house. Somebody had said maybe and it's true. I have found a house. I placed an offer. They were going to have an open house this weekend. They said if you do a counter offer, maybe we'll consider not selling. And so I did a counter offer and wrote a really nice PD little story of why this house is perfect, and they accepted. So I just got the notice just a minute ago. Yay, I have a house. You want to see it? Here, check this out. I got pictures. This is the front of the house. It's a flag house, which means it's got a driveway. And then you go into the house. There's no street in front of my house. I have been living by a very busy road that's got cars going by 24/7, and I'm by the trains. And so to finally be at a place where it's going to be quiet is so exciting. And it's got a nice front room. They've remodeled it a bit. Nice kitchen. But of course, the most important thing, the master bedroom upstairs is going to be the studio. So this will be where the studio is at. I'm really excited. It's got this really cool arch over the top type of a vibe. We'll do all sorts of sound treatment to this. So you guys will be along on this journey. So get ready. So, give me a housewarming gift. You guys are funny. Oh, that's awesome. I probably will have a Skippy's moving sale because it's not cheap to do this. But I found it, and I can do the down payment and the closing costs barely. But very excited. So that's happening. So I just got word just a few minutes ago that they accepted. They were going to have an open house tomorrow, and so I had to counter offer my own offer and write a little note, and it was enough that they went, okay, you've got enough of an interesting story, and you can have our bedroom for your studio. This type of thing. So done deal. Anyway, thank you for joining. Hello, welcome. We're gonna have some fun today. I've got all sorts of interesting things planned. There is a audio demo that was done earlier this week with Bob Dides. He did the music, and I can kind of show you if you want to see. Let's see if I can do this. If I go here, where's my, I got so many folders here. If I open this, I think I can show you both the, let's see here, date. I think this is, let me listen real quick because you won't hear this, I don't think. No, it's not that one. Okay, yeah, this is a rough idea early. So let's go like this. So this is the, I'll give you guys also a little like remix process. So I took his demo, which sounded like this. Let me play a bit of it. And he just used a drum loop. And he used a drum loop that had a really huge kick in it. Just absolutely, it was not right. Here, so I'm going to solo this so you can hear it. Here's the original demo of this song. In a minute, I'm going to play the world premiere music video. I did a video using my drone footage and stuff to this music. But here's the original, and then I'll play what I did to this. So he had that loop with this boom, and it's got the cool orchestra hit, kind of thing happening in it. But the low end of that kick was just completely bombing out everything that was going on around it as far as to the bass sounds in the track. And so I took it, and I'm going to play you just a little bit of where I took it to, and then we'll play the whole video with the video with the full mix, so you hear the whole thing. So I don't have to play this over and over and over for you. But here's what I. Shoot, let's just play it and play the video at the same time. That'll be fun. So you get to hear what I did. You heard where it came from. Here's where it ended up. Let me make sure that this looks right on the screen, because I want this to look at. This is my. I've never done a world premiere of a video before. So, does that look okay? Do you see the whole thing on your screen, right? All right. So here we go. Here is the. Let's see. I gotta mute this. Mute this. We got this happening. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna solo this so you don't hear the air conditioner. So that's how it turned out. And then it fades out. There's an Easter egg on this video. If you let it run, it runs for about a minute in the dark. And then after about a minute, that happened. And I love, there's this one moment in the video where right there, that's the bridge I crossed. It was stuck, it was with the suction cup on the hood of my car, and I was going too fast and hit the bump there. It fell off. Luckily, it just had, I mean, GoPros are made for just crazy stuff. So the GoPro was fine. It has a couple of scratches and dings and personality to it now. It's not new like it was. But yeah, it was cruising nicely and watch the bump right here. Right there. Boom. Ah! Now if that would have been you or me, we'd be like in pieces. But GoPros are... Oh, I'll be quiet. You gotta watch this. This is funny. Still filming. There's Athena. Hi, Athena. So, there, world premiere. You guys got to see Breezy chill before anybody else. It was really fun to do that. So Bob did great with the musical arrangement. He's never been a fan of the drum programming part of things for modern music. So, oh no, Mr. Bill. You guys are crazy. You guys are sick. So anyway, that came out well. So I'm really happy with that. So we have a couple things we're going to look at today on the big agenda plan. I'm not going to get, you know, houses are one of these things where I don't want to get too excited about it until it's a real reality, because they can go south. And so I have made an offer and have been accepted on a house that is pretty much a dream house for a musician that has needs for space like I need, room to grow. I have so many plans for the future for what I'm doing. So having, there's actually a baby room on the other side from the master bedroom that can also be studio space or work office computer space. It's an awesome situation. Really, really excited. So that's been accepted, and we'll cross our fingers, and we'll be doing tours. And as the studio is modified and the carpet comes out, there's a company in Seattle I'm going to try to work with to do the acoustician sound treatment to the room. You'll want to know about them if you don't have proper sound treatment. I've never done it in this room because it's a rental house, and I always knew I didn't want to invest a lot of money here, and I got speakers that self-correct themselves. The Genelec speakers can correct themselves and correct this room and have been just unbelievable. Best investment I have made probably forever. The 8340s are just incredible speakers. Truly incredible. So, fingers crossed, toes crossed. We will know more as we go through this process. It's not a baby room for me. No, it was a baby room. Kids have grown up. It's a really cool situation. The family that owns the house is moving to Germany. The dad got an offer to move to Germany for a job, and have them give us a bundle price. Okay, yeah, Big E. We'll talk about that. So Big E, he works. Just so you know, he works at Nike, and he gets to work with all these great stars of basketball and all this stuff. And he sends me a picture. I'm landing. I just had meetings with Chris Paul and Kevin Durant, and all I'm thinking about is the live stream. And I'm rushing home to get home by the live stream. So he made it. Instead of hanging out with Kevin Durant, he'd just rather be here talking tech. So he is a sick puppy indeed. Glad to have him as a customer. I've done production tips and stuff with him. He's a good guy. Do you have to do a studio tour when all yeah, my place won't look like Junkie XL. Hi, Wiz. Welcome. So today, we're going to look at two things. We're going to look at Del Norte for a minute, and then we're going to look at how I made Del Norte. And you can take some of this if you want to sample your own synthesizers. I'm not going to show automated software that does it. I've never worked that way. I probably will never work that way because I'm such a control freak. And it's so easy to do on your own. So the whole idea of saying every fourth note at this velocity, go, and then it plays the notes, records it, and then maps it across the key. I like to do all that myself. So I'm old school with that stuff. So we're going to cover how to do that. But first of all, I want to make something really clear that's really cool with this library. Oh, I was showing so I had I put a link on the YouTube page. I had a live stream that went really well yesterday with the Ukraine. There's a really nice guy, Oleg, that I work with that lives in the Ukraine, and I'm kind of his synth programmer for Russia. So I'm the one sharing knowledge and information. I showed him both Del Norte, and then I showed him Percussa. And it's really funny to realize that the previous library that I did is a library of this type of stuff. Cinematic, we went from this big radical I love they catch you, they kill you. From this to chill. I mean, that's a big to go from that to and drone footage and redwood trees. And unmute part 8 and you have a cool attack. So that's to talk about that in 1 hour, to show literally one planet in the galaxy and then switch gears and go to Percussa. Woo! And that's a lot. But what I want to point out, please realize, I'm actually going to make a bonus library. I'm not going to tell you all the details yet, but there's a bonus library coming for Del Norte. I'm going to pull out all of these individual samples and make them patches, because it's really interesting. If you were to take, let's do this. Let's go to just part 1. So that means we turn off stack mode and we just have part 1 playing, right? So if we go to part 1, right? So this is using a C1 sample, and this will make sense once we start talking about sampling with hardware synthesizers. You need to understand this concept. Each one of the C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, those are connotating and correlating to octaves on the keyboard. So if I was to call up my little, let's do this so it helps show a little bit, environment, let me go over here. I'm not even going to try to clean it up because this is just for a brief moment to show how this works. But here's my MIDI keyboard, right? And see how it says C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6. If I had an 88-note keyboard, it would go to C7 and C8. And if I had an 88-note keyboard, I'd probably go down to C0 as well. I believe that's an octave that doesn't show up, because here's C1 and then C0. So an 88-note keyboard goes from C0 to C8. I don't have an 88-note keyboard. So when these say C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that means that is the pitch that would be the same as if you played C6 or C4, or it's the same. So when I play the same note and I change between these, it's playing back the recording that's supposed to be at C1 on C. Well, here, I should have the keyboard stay back up. This makes sense. So I'm going to play C3, right? And I'm going to change from C1, hear how it sounds? C3. That's the original pitch. That's what it's supposed to sound like. Now, as I play these, it's playing the sample that's supposed to play on this note, but it's playing 1 octave slower. Now it's going to play it 2 octaves slower. And you hear all sorts of different things start to fall apart, actually. Hear that aliasing in there? And then if I play the C6, it's falling apart because this is 3 octaves. This is way up here, the original sample, and I'm going to play it on C3. So it's playing even slower, and there's more breakup. And to make this work, because it's such a far up the keyboard and it's playing it so slow, you would go to your sample start and change that so you can play it in time. But you hear that? All that cool magical stuff is because this is a sample that's way up the keyboard being played slow. Years ago, 25 years ago, I've been friends with Eric Persing for a long time, and one of the things that he was so into, I'd go over to his house, we'd play music for each other, how do you make that sound? How do you make that sound? We shared and learned a lot together in those early days. And he loved taking a sample that was way up here and playing it like 6 octaves lower and going, listen to this, listen to this. And you play the note and you go, you just sit there and listen to the sounds evolve. It's one of the things that's really stuck with me through the years because he really loves what happens to sound. So if you take like a string sound that's supposed to be at one range and you twist the playback because you're playing, when you load it into Omnisphere and it says this C thing, that means what note it originally played on. So it automatically maps it across the keyboard. But when I play C3 each time, this is a C1 sample. So the original sample pitch is right here. That's the original sample. So what that means, anything that's down low in pitch will get brighter and more brittle as you go up the keyboard. So this is this bright, buzzy, in your face. If I play the C7 and play the same thing, it's like dying and decaying and broken. And if I play like C3, it's going to be like this. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Because that's the original sample point. So there's a reason when you go into Del Norte, you'll see all these C4, 5, 6, 7s because those are the samples that were required to make the multis. Each one of these, when you call up 6 Rivers Sine, it's not just one patch as a multi, it's 7 patches. And the magic of that is that it's 7 different samples with its own effects happening per sample that are playing. That's why it sounds so incredibly, just beautifully majestic. And you can test that really easily by just turning off stack mode, and this is one sample. And it's a whole different vibe. But you see how the stereo imaging, the space, it's gone. Whereas as the multi, there's this depth that's just like so yummy. Yummy depth. Right? So, the first part of our tutorial is to make sure you understand C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you look at the patches, you'll also see there, I did C, G, C, G. Because for synthesizers, for the most part, every fifth is okay. If you're doing a cello and you want to be totally accurate, you have to do like maybe every other note. So C, G, that range of playing a C sample and recording it, G sample, playing a C, that means that this C plays like to B flat, and then this sample, the G sample, will play up to A. So they don't have to stretch very far before a new sample takes over. So that's what we call multi-sampling. And that's the concept of taking multiple samples at different pitches, and that's used to make these sounds and make them more realistic. Any of the big sample libraries you call up are all multi-sampled like to incredible levels, because then you get to where you actually can play soft and it'll play one recording, and you play harder and it will play a completely different recording of that instrument. And if you look at, I was showing in I had someone over here and I was showing them, check this out. If you look at something like inside of Contact. I just want to make sure you guys get this idea, because there's really deep science in sampling at this point. It has come a real long ways. And if you call up one of these pianos that Native Instruments released, have it load. If you go over here, remember, you can look at all the details that make these up. If you go to the mapping editor, you can't see much here unless you go to list view. And here you go down the list, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. So what this is showing is each one of these guys are insane. But 1, 2, if you count these, there's 16 per note. So this piano, when I play soft, that's the piano recorded soft. When I play hard, that is when they played the piano with a harder strike. They actually have machines that will play back the key strike at the exact same velocity so they can do piano sampling. Yamaha does this with great accuracy. So that way you get 117 velocities equal across the whole keyboard. I've done sampling sessions where we had a piano player sit there. And he actually was trying to remember to play at about 105. And you have to let the sound ring out. Right? This is a sampling session. This is what we do. And you let it ring out until you can't hear it anymore. Then you count to 3. And trying to remember to play at the same velocity. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But they actually have machines now that can do that. So when you play and your sequencer says 127 and it plays that chord, it's all recordings of the piano being recorded playing 127 full. Because you can't get that velocity change like that. You can't get that if you're just dealing with filters. You can get close. You can get pretty close. But there is all sorts of timbral change. The hammer's hitting the string harder. That's all recorded. That's why Contact is so powerful, is because every single note across the keyboard can be a new sample, and it can be 16 velocities deep. It could even get even crazier where each one of these could be multiple samples that are randomly changing. So that way each time it's not a machine gun playing the same velocity and the same sample. It will actually... So Contact 5 is... There's a reason why Contact 5 exists, and it has become the standard because it is flexible enough to do this. So all these companies have libraries for Contact 5 because this is the... They can dream it to be this, and using the mapping editor and using this view and so forth, you can take these and you can say what the velocity range is, what the range is. It's only one note for all of these samples for... Oh, it's a lower sample. Anyway, you get the idea. So, that's sampling and multi-sampling, and why these sound so good. You go to any of these. You go to Fortuna Soft. Oh, let's get back to here. This is supposed to have sidechain and so forth on it to do the dancey EDM. Right? But if I was to turn off stack mode and it's one sample, that one sample, it really has a hard time up here. But that distressed sound is a cool thing. And I consciously made the library without making any of these as patches because I was going to do a bonus library and put all these in it. So that will be coming probably in the next week or so. And you can do all sorts of tricks for round robin stuff. To trick round robins, I'll show you a couple of my favorite tricks with that really quick, because that tricking that it doesn't sound like a machine gun, I use that all the time on the attack patches. So if we go to Del Norte, and go here. I'll show you a couple really fun things you can do. Let's call it something that's clear that we hear really loudly. Right? By the way, make sure you download the latest version of the library. I did one last edit and snuck it in, and I haven't made a big deal out of it because for a lot of you, you won't notice it. But I turned off the B oscillator in all the attack patches. And if you're using this as a layer with other patches, make sure that B is off, because B, I realized, is a 4 oscillator harmonia unison synth sound. So each time you play a note, it's actually playing 5 notes of polyphony with layer B on. So that's why I was getting that cutoff of notes last week. I figured it out. Is because the layer B was on, which you don't hear until you move the mod wheel up, and then you get the right. Okay, so make sure you download the new version of the library. Everything is all fixed as far as that goes. Now, if we look at this, it has the same attack, and for a lot of things, you want it to be that way. But it's also fun to right click and say modulate this with the randomizer. And what I do is the half strength is way too, because that's, if you set it at half strength, 0.5, there's times where it's going to just be gone. You can actually go in and hold down shift and make it even like just 0.006. And now that attack is different every time you play a note. That kind of is seeming like a round robin thing. If you turn on the arpeggiator, those attacks are different each time. And as you bring up the, we could do this. If we go like this, if I bring up the round robin, the higher you bring it, the wider that range of random is. Okay, so that's one trick. The other trick you guys might not have thought about that's really cool. Let's unmodulate this. Have it so by default, you start later. Because the way most acoustic instruments work, when you play a guitar something soft, it doesn't have much attack. It's only when you play harder. So what the idea is set this to be a later start. Right click and modulate this with velocity and invert it. So by harder velocities, the Korg synthesizers were my favorite envelopes because the attack, the decay, sustain, release could all be independently modulated with different values of velocity. And I would always use that to do on clavinets to the decay, a little bit to the attack by velocity. So this is a really cool trick, old school, to have the sample start later. Let's do this. Let's go into, say, the guitars in the factory voicing. Let's the JC120. JC120. Oh, I think there's a space. Guitar. Let's just use the baritone. That'll be fine. Baritone guitar. All right, so it's got this. Move it later. And then have velocity. And that along with bringing up the velocity to the amp a little bit more, will give you the ability to, because the round robin idea of it not being the same recording every time is really nice for when you're trying to get like it to be a little bit more of an acoustic thing, even though it's electronic. So I use that. Let me check comments real quick. Show that really quick again, John. So the idea is, like I said, you take a sample. We're still on guitars, right? So let's go to the JC Strat. I think it's down here. I say Strat. Yeah, Strat JC-120. So if you play this over and over again, it's the same, right? So one concept is to modulate with randomize, and then bring this down to be like just a small amount. This makes it that much more realistic, even though it's a single sample. Now this particular guitar has a soft velocity and then a hard velocity. Okay, so we're not dealing with that. I can show you other tricks for that if we want to get into that, but at the moment we're not. So unmodulate. The other idea, instead of random, is to have your velocity actually be a musical expression. So you would use sample start to go later, and then right click and say modulate with velocity, invert it and make it stronger. And as you can see right here this going backwards. So you can actually see when it's going to get to where this value is going to go back to here. It shows you on this bottom line. It's really cool in Omnisphere. If I say the other way, you'll see it's going later into the sample, right? So this strength at the top says, what's my range? When I hit my hardest velocity, how late am I going? Am I going to the end of the sample? Well, you could do that. And so if you have it really high and you're going inverted, then that means the small range is compressed so that it doesn't take very high of a value before you're already hit this attack. And another trick you should be aware of, if I bring up my velocity value, see right about right there. See where that little red light showed up? That tells me that I have just hit the point where this value is going to hit the minimum value. Or if it's the other way around, it would be to the maximum value. So you can use that as a really cool gauge. See right there? Boom. That tells me I've just hit maximum value when I'm sending a maximum value in velocity. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but this little tiny bar in this specific modulation slider is critical. Critical. And there's a bigger representation over here because it will tell you when you're going to hit the maximum value with your intensity of something. So let's take that to another example. Let's say that we're on a synthesizer. We have the filter. And let's turn off velocity to the right. And I'm going to modulate this with an LFO. It's not hitting the top range. Now it's hitting top and bottom maximum. And if I bring this in, you can see over here, it's lowering the range in both directions. So when you're programming, Eric is very smart in doing this idea where he wanted this value, this slider, this is what's moving. But I don't know how much it's moving just by the depth. And in most synthesizers, you do not know what your range is when you're assigning and turning up depth. You have to listen. And does it hit the maximum filter and then does it stay at the filter for a while and then drop back down? That's how you tell what this is showing you. So you don't need to use your ears with Omnisphere. You can actually see what the range of something is. So that's, I guess that is a pretty cool thing. I should do a separate video on that. Okay. So, yeah, the Korg synthesizers, we have always had these parameters that let us get a musical, because my goal is trying, everything I do has electronic vibe to it, but I try to make it electronic, or I try to make it acoustic, or at least you connect to these sounds. That's my whole goal in what I'm doing. So you connect to them in a cool kind of way. Korg has always been great, which is why it was really fun, and I still work with them. So I will be working with them in the future. So that is kind of our wrap up of the Omnisphere. I'm drinking alien blood today. Very good blood. That's the wrap up of this. we are now going to shift gears, and I'm going to talk about how I made Del Norte and share some tips so you guys can do this yourself if you want. Like I said, I went to the Redwoods and I took along my Virus TI, which is right here. And it's got tons of knobs and sliders. It's a wonderful synthesizer. But one of the cool things that they did is that they added software, which they call TI, which is total integration. And that's a level of integration I haven't seen. Analog 4 is doing something similar to that, and Elticon is working on that very hard, and they might already have done this. They're getting there. But the browser lets me call up patches. Oh, let me get to where I'm actually on the Virus. And I hear it. The audio and this editor are all coming from one USB cable. Okay, so the sounds of this is just unbelievable. The synthesizer parameter types, the wave tables. You have all these different wave tables. This oscillator, let's see. I'm going to make a sound. Here's my unison mode. I'm going to actually change this. Instead of being classic, I'm going to have it do the hypersaw. Here's my amp envelope and my filter. I want this to... Because when I'm sampling something, typically I'll keep a little motion, but most motion I don't want to have in the samples, because that way I can do that in programming later. So I do all sort of prep work to the sound, and I like the attack. That's cool. So I want to make sure I save this. So I'm going to save this song as, really quickly, just in case something bad goes wrong. I have saved this. So what I do at this point, I have found my sound. It actually dies out. Now that could be okay, or it could be what I don't want. Let me think for a minute. Typically, I don't like the sounds to fade out because I'm going to loop them. And that way I can use them in more ways than just, if it fades out, then it's just, oh, it's having to save that movie. It's going to take it a minute to save. Oh, there we go. No, it's still going. I should delete that movie from my save. Because Logic is right now saving all the movies and everything that are playing in it. So let's see, what's the chat saying? All right, real quickly. Everybody write down what city and country you are in. Let's see where everybody's at. I want to see where everybody's from. Houston, Texas. Sweden. Big E woke up in Atlanta this morning and now he's in Portland. Bavaria, Colorado, Canada. Isn't it cool? The world is just one place altogether. I think that's so awesome. Oh, Bothell. That's not too far from me. Hi, neighbor. Hi, Bruce. Norway, Los Angeles, Oxford, UK. Oh, St. George. Romania. Awesome. It is global. It's a global thing. Okay, we just saved. So actually, I'm going to do this. Let me quickly go over here. Let me say close the movie. Remove the movie. And resave. And there. Doesn't take it 30 minutes. Okay, so what is making this fade out? Let's look real quickly. Sustain. There. There. So I have this sound with an interesting attack. And when I play this, it's just one note. Right? And I'm going to fix the fade out so it's less, so I don't have to wait so long after I've... And let's look at the effects. We've got a little analog boost happening. We've got distortion happening. Filter bank is off. There's not much EQ. There's a lot of reverb. And go back to the filter and... Oh, this is the amplifier. I'm backwards in my thinking stuff. Okay, there. That's the sound I want. Now the reverb is really big. So this is where the dry versus the wet comes in. I would have lots of effects and record it wet, and then I would turn these off and record it dry. So when you're looking in the Del Norte library, you will see wet and dry versions of sounds. That's that idea. So let's do the wet version because that sounds really nice for purposes here. I'm going to now bring up the Logic screen because we're going to set some stuff up here. Let's make this a little bit smaller so that all the details show up on the screen. So I want to play a little bit lower in the ranges, so I'm going to go to transpose and transpose down. I definitely want that. All right. So what I do is I hit record. I can turn off the click because this isn't timing based. And this is what's going to loop, so I have to let this sustain a little bit. And that's it. And then I hold down Option and I drag it over here and I can transpose this up. Let's just do octaves to make this simple. 12. And then Option click. Put another one here. We're going to do 3 octaves of sampling. And say, oh wait, this is not going to work. Because I'm transposing the MIDI input transpose, not the actual event transpose. So and what I need to do is go to this one and say, not here, but the region, transpose that plus 12, and this one I need to transpose plus 24. So this note, let's double check. We could play it back before we... It's not the lower octave, so let's select everybody and say transpose down 12. And what's nice is it will keep all the separate transposes that were already previously set if I do it that way. So this way, make sure. There it is. And if I want the playback to be shorter, I can just speed up my playback tempo and it will speed back the playback so it's a shorter note because it's playing faster. And then the important part is here. So I can have the next note start there. Okay. to it fade out. Make sure it fades out all the way. It's very boring. I want you to know, building a library is not something that is necessarily a like speedy, fast. But I love it. I love this part. Okay, so I have 4 samples. So I set up my range. And I solo this. And then I say capture as audio. So it's gonna be quiet for a minute. You won't hear anything because I have to do it in real time. So just stick with me. In a minute we'll have an audio track. So watch this. So we go solo. Okay, so now I drag this audio file that was created into Logic. And just like that, I now have, it's kind of a spiritual thing to me. I gotta admit, I love the process. I have an audio track, and there's all sorts of ways to do it. I use a command called strip silence, which is wonderful inside of Logic to strip things quickly. I can say the minimum time to accept as silence. So that way I make sure that I get everything to just be 4 regions. Pre-attack time, let's have a little bit of pre-attack. I'll fix that in my editing. Post-release, I can add if I want to keep the tails. I don't need the tails because it will be looping way before then. And I say, okay. And what it does is it makes 4 regions. It hasn't made them audio yet. All this is to take the one region and turn it into 4 pieces. My pie has now been sliced into 4 pieces, so I could play this, and I could, let's mute this track because we don't need to hear the virus at this point because it's now been turned into audio. So now when I play this, there they are. Now realize if I would have had effects or other things on that virus track, which I can do, and that's part of my Mega Magic process sometimes, I could have made these richer, more crazy, reverby, all sorts of, there's no limits to what you do before you bounce. The cool thing though is that I'm using my gear, my hardware gear, to create something that I'm going to be able to work with in my software world, right? So I can select these, and there's a really nice fast command in export says export 4 regions as audio files. But before I do that, let me show you a couple other tricks. So I'm going to use the text tool when I hit command, and I can go in here and I can say, what should we call this? Dream Gong. 1. And actually, we'll do this C1 since they're C. And so it will automatically name these C1, C2, C3, C4 for the regions. So when I spit these out, they already have the name that I need for them to work inside of Logic, or inside of ESX24, or inside of Omnisphere. It's important to do your name prep as early as you can, so you don't have to go back once you've made 300 things and rename things one at a time. I've done that many times. It's painful. So don't do that if you don't have to. So at this point, before I have even made it audio, I'm fixing names inside of Logic or whatever my sequencer that I'm working with. Hopefully it can support doing stuff like this as well, because Logic, I have used this. I have spit out literally 50,000 samples with one key click before, because I've done Korg multi-sample, multi-microphone recording sessions that are like this long, of like every percussion instrument on the planet, and you get it all mapped out and get everything set for each instrument, and then hit one button and export them all out. So by taking these 4 sounds, I can now go to export as audio files. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to say new folder and call it Dream Gong Live, and say save. And I have options here. I could turn on normalize. I'm not going to turn on normalize. I'm going to make sure it's off. Normalizing, if the sound is soft, it will get more brittle. It will bring up noise floor. For Del Norte, I didn't normalize anything, so the sounds are exactly as they came. Sorry about that, it went quiet for a minute. So I now have this folder. Inside this folder are 4 samples. So now I need to open these in my sample editor. I don't need the whole 4 one, but each one of these I now need to look at and edit by hand. Let's go like this and take a look at the beginning and delete that and save. These are steps I do to every sample. When you see a library that says 600 samples, I have edited them by hand at least a couple times. It's an insane amount of work. Okay, so I'm editing these. I know already that this is close enough. I go like this, I hold command and I hit the plus key, and it will zoom in to what I have selected, so I can quickly look at it. Now, if I want, let's do this. Let's do a check, okay? So we're gonna go to Omnisphere. Come here, Omnisphere. Promise this won't hurt. Let's go in here to sample, hit the folder, and turn on your user audio box. And at this point, I recommend having the samples in a folder and a name on the folder. If you don't do that, it's gonna put some funny date and stuff, and it's gonna become gobbledygook. Once you have done this 4 or 5 times, you'll just have dates, and then you have to click through each one of those looking for what you're trying to find. So if you name it ahead of time, drag it over the user audio folder. These are not looped yet, so we have that step in the process still to do. Well, they have made software. No, there's software that has sped up this editing process. It's much faster if you use Keymap Pro or if you use MainStage, but I don't like that. I am a control freak. I want the sounds to be by my hand. I'm creating Frankenstein. I don't want a machine to do this. I have no interest in automation. No. It exists. You can do this in your sleep. And these libraries that have 85 different instruments that have, you know, you can buy, I think UVI has all these synthesizer anthology, and it's like thousands. All they do is they set it and it's automated and it's done. And there's no craftsmanship, there's no artistry in that process. You're just calling it up and hitting record. And maybe there is. I don't want to demean that too much, But no, I do this by hand because it's my choice and my desire. I'm creating something. This is from me. It's not from software, okay? So none of my libraries go through an automated process. I hate that. So here they are. Here's our 4 samples. This is the C1 sample, so it's down low. C2, C3, and C4. And as you can see, let's do a little, if I don't have loops, it plays nice. And I play a chord and I hold it. And because they're long samples, they last a while, but eventually they go away. So if you have a part in your song where something has to hold for 6 measures, it will eventually go away. Okay, so this is where this next step in sample editing is important. Looping. Looping is the art of taking a sample that is this long and finding a place where it can stop recording, where it can stop playback and go back into the sample somewhere and make a loop that you don't notice is like being it becomes smooth. For real, assuming Hans Zimmer. Oh, you guys are nice. You guys are nice. Thank you. Nice comments. So the next step is a program, and this. I'm going to show you this program. That is the reason I will not update the operating system of my computer. This is called Keymap Pro. This is made by Redmatica, and it is a really interesting program. That is the complete one-stop sample. You could do automated sampling. It can do some crazy things. There's no doubt about it. I'll show you a couple of the cool tricks it can do. So this software doesn't work in OS X 10.12. I'm going to take these 4 samples. Watch this. I take these 4, and I can hold down. When I click here, there's modifiers, and I say auto map samples using the root key from the sample name. So by doing this, it has mapped those samples across the keyboard automatically for me. So I will let that part of automation happen, gladly. In fact, if you want to see something really crazy, check this out. It's because I've chopped these by hand, this can actually do it automatically. Check this out. So if I select this and delete it, if I was to take this virus live, I can go over here, and I can have it go to here and say auto map, auto loop, everything automated. This is your automated process, and you can say which way does it analyze this recording. This is the recording with all 4 notes. Let's see how well it does. Let's say spectral. So it looks at it, it tries to figure out there's a gap between the samples, tries to pitch recognize and loop all the samples, and it did it wrong. That's why I don't trust it. And then I have to fix it. Let's try it another way. So let's say go like this and have it do it the classic way and see if that works better. Sometimes classic works better. So analyze, map it out. It's thinking really hard. Still thinking. And it still did it wrong. So the automated process is not fail-proof. That's why I like to do it myself, and then just take these 4, hold down Option, go right here, and it will map them across the keyboard. Now each one of these samples, unfortunately you can't hear this because I don't think. Let me ask you this. Let's do this. Let's go Preferences. See if I can get this to show up. If I go Audio out, no, I don't even want to mess with it. So I'm going to do this fairly quickly. So I set the end to be somewhere in here. I turn on loop. I change the loop stop to be somewhere else in the sample. I use equal power crossfades, and I grab the LX, which is the crossfade, and let's see how that sounds real quick. So this is looping. It's gonna start blending, and it sounds. I think it's gonna be fine. We'll find out. I'm doing this very quickly and kind of not scientifically. Equal power, just to show you the process. I have to do this to every sample that is looped in all of my libraries. So if it says looped, I've done this by hand, check the sounds. It's baking a cake, and it is not an overnight process. So equal power, loop start, this. Let's have it be a little bit longer, because the longer the loop is, the nicer it will be, especially as I go up the keyboard. This top one, I really want to go like right here to the end of the sample. Turn on loop, equal power. I want to use as much of the sustaining body as I can to make it as smooth as I can. So now I take these 4 samples and I say export, and I needed to do every sample, and I don't want it to have unique names. That's fine. It's going to give it the root name. I don't even need this because I have the name in the sample. So export, it's going to create a folder automatically for me. I learned this cool trick a while ago. So here they are, and it actually mapped it out as an EXS24. So if I go to Logic and I call up a plugin and I say ESX24, let's see here. I got to put this into the sampler instruments folder really fast. So let's go like this and call up the, where is it at? Sampler instruments on a separate thing. And get this back up here to the desktop and say this is that. So we're going to call this Dream Gong EXS24. Copy that, go to sampler instruments, paste that. Now I go into ESX24 and I say refresh the menu so it will look one more time, update its database. There it is, untitled. But just use the ones, yeah, because it sees them 2 times. I think it's going to call it the right ones with the loops. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so that's how I can check to make sure they work before I put them in the ESX24. They work, so now we can go back to the ESX24. Go to this samplers page. Now, I should probably consider giving these a different name so that they don't show up with the same names as this. So I would go in here. Oh, they say it already. They say dash C1, C2, C3, 4. So grab these guys. Actually, just delete that. And let's call it Dream Gong Looped. That makes sense, right? And click and drag to the user audio folder. And it will now quickly import into its own format with loops those samples now. So they were able to be used. They were successfully imported. So I can call these guys up. They're sustaining. Here, we'll hear just one sample so you can hear the loop. Yay. So it's in. So that is the process. Then the next step, it's not over, is to go to a multi, call up track 1, call up the low C1 sample, right? Then turn on stack mode and key range each one of these. Set this one is to this range. Let's say this one's to about this range. I'm just going to do this really quickly, not scientifically, and actually they should be more like this to be in the middle of G's, right? Because we have C's as the sample, so we want to go up to about G on the keyboard and then pass the baton to the next sample. So these 4 samples are going to these here. So I go copy part, go to part 2. And this is realized after I have programmed the daylights out of this part. So I typically have this mapped across the keyboard. I have to get this set so it plays. I want to have a low pass UVI filter because this is the one that sounds the nicest when it's wide open. Then I want my mod wheel to take it in a negative direction to darken it. And as I have it bring the mod wheel in a negative direction, let's also have it bring up resonance a little bit so we can really hear. Right? And I want this actually to go deeper, so show the modulation for the wheel and make that a stronger depth. Okay? So that's right. Let's say that's what we want. And maybe for effects, go through the Guru racks real quick, go to these mixes. There. Get it to be something kind of cool. I would tweak with this and mess with it, but I'm not going to right now. So I copy this part, then I go to part 2 and paste this part. And then what I have to do is I have to go in and call up sample C2. And then go to part 3 and say paste this part. This was all the programming done that I did on part that C1, the layer 1. C1, C2, this will be C3. And then go to part 4, paste part, and then go down here to C4. So once I go to multi to split and I set this to be set range wise, let's say here's my first sample, second sample, third sample, and my fourth sample. So it works. Yay! So those are the steps required to make each one of the 36 sounds that are 7 samples in Omnisphere 2. It's a huge amount of work. But it's work I love. So that is the process. I will probably include this with the bonus content. Why not? So I'll save this out. Multi-save, multi... this is not really bell. We'll call it synth, dream, gong, live. So this will come with the bonus content when I release it later this week. And we want to go to the multis. I'll put this just in the user folder for now. Split sounds, save, authors, John Limcool. Plug in Guru, Del, Norte, EDM, chill, web link, pluginguru.com. Fun sounds created by the virus TI2, created 100% during a live stream event on July 15th, 2017. It's online if you want to go watch how this was done. All the multis in Del Norte were made this same way with love. All right, saved. There's nothing like Redmatica. I am sorry. There's actually I want to point this out. I haven't used them, but there is a company called Sample Robot that they have equal power crossfade looping. They have all sorts of things that they're doing. So I think this is a promising thing to look at. SampleRobot.com. They have a demo for their Wave Robot 5. I've bought this. I haven't been able to stop my production train to figure this out. but they have advanced loop, transient finder. They're trying to fill the void. So, and they're PC and Mac. So I would recommend these guys, although I have not used them, so I do not know how well everything works out. But they have worked with a lot of companies. A lot of companies are using them. And so I think that they might be something to look into. All right. So I think that's about... My head hurts. So I think that's about where we'll stop. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. There'll be... if you don't have Del Norte, it's on sale for 2 more days. Tomorrow night, the $45 introductory price is over. There is also, just let me point out on my site, the $1 version of the library, which gives you a nice, quick sampling of the patches. It really went well. A lot of people from Russia bought this because everything's expensive over there. And so I was really actually kind of happy that I have this. So this is a really great way to get just a handful of patches. You know? And will definitely leave you wanting more. That's the yay. So the library is on my website. Please come support the teacher. Help me buy my house. But I will probably have, just so you know, I don't have to have GoFundMe because I have my own website. But I'll probably have a Skippy's moving sale. So we'll have a fire sale or something like that. I don't know. Because there's not that many sales happening the rest of the year. We're kind of out of the Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter, every sale you can think of. There's not any for a while. So I have to think of one. And definitely moving seems like a good sale. So that's it. Thank you for your support. Let me see if there's any questions over here. There's a lot of you guys watching and talking. I love all the chatting going on. It's awesome. Skippy's yard sale. Yeah. the yard sale. We have beer sale. You guys are funny. All right. Well, I look forward to these Saturday live streams as much as a lot of you guys seem to. So this is good therapy. So I hope that tutorial shows you could record anything. Any synthesizer you own that has sounds you like. They become quite different when you, if you want, let's do this. Here's the virus, right? It's a different vibe altogether than, oh, yeah, that's really different, isn't it? Let's call it back up. Go multi, it's, I believe in user. Pretty close. So, I'm pretty proud of that. We got pretty close to the original. That's nice. So to go from this that's the virus, and here we are in Omnisphere. And now I have all the virus things. Well, the Omnisphere filter. Delays, all that stuff. So yeah. Wave Robot, check it out if you want. Rewatch this once it's online. When I quit, it will be saved and put up and published on YouTube. That's the process that was used to make all of the sounds inside of Del Norte. A lot of this process is also what I do for all the Mega Magic libraries. So yeah, I want this information to be out there for other people to take and go further with it. And you know, it's up to you. There's software that can do a lot of this in automation. Some steps can be automated for sure, but there's other steps that I think are really important to have your hand in it. So Thank you for watching. Thanks for your support. As always, you guys are an awesome family to have. So I appreciate that. Any questions? So interesting, and what an insight in all efforts. It takes a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. I love the work. I like to work hard. Because the end result is just these things that are just, you know, I play them back and go, wow. You know, it's really fun. Since I've made so many of these, it's fun. Like when you get to something like the Lost Coast, these in particular were just so huge. Because I made the biggest unisons I could in the virus, and so these. To have them finally be real, I mean, I get goose pimples playing them. And what I did with a lot of these is if there's a synth, there might be a pad version as well. So if you look at something like Planet Blue Strings, the wet is a pad. Why aren't you playing? In D. What does in D? What did I? But Planet Blue Strings, there's also the dry version, which is in the synth because it's a faster attack. Put these behind real strings. Good stuff. Okay, I'm gonna go hang out with my daughter. Glad you guys watched. Thanks for joining me, and we will talk to you next week. Send me questions if you have questions on this stuff. Need some ideas for what we'll do next week. All right, maybe I'll be showing you cello. Although I'm working on something to sneak in between now and cello. You're gonna like this. All right, I'll talk to you later. I appreciate. Hands together, head bowed to each of you. Bless you. See you later. Bye.